Maybe with this spin-off one-shot Chapter 109, the creator of Death Note is trying to say there could be no one in the Death Note universe that could replicate what Light Yagami had done. This is what leads to L's, Ryuk, and Nir's utmost respect for him. Oga's one-shot or Death Note Chapter 109 should be conceived as a simple reminder to certain fans that the impact of Kira and how one's ideology can be interpreted in many ways to the rest of the world. Oga stated himself, in fact, when he was asked about Death Note on the theory of good and evil or ideological meanings to it, and his response was, not at all. What Nir said at the end, the justice is what each people make up on their own. And in his opinion, that's most close to what he thinks. And I know such a philosophical debate is something that might draw interest, but that is going to end up ideological and a political debate. So he decided that Death Note should stay away far from this. It's very risky subject to touch on, and it won't be a good topic for a manga anyway, in his own words. The creator of Death Note feels like there isn't a particular theme to the series. In fact, what they wanted to portray to us was that humans are destined to die someday and we can never come back to life ever again, so we must do our best while we are alive. And they have stated this in interviews themselves. The one-shot entails the fact that this so-called cheap Kira only managed to do a fraction of what Light Yagami had achieved as Kira before he threw the towel in. As stated by Midora, the new Shinigami, this cheap Kira began to lose his mind, and he wasn't as strong as Light, thus leading him to his psychotic behavior and eventually writing his own name down in the Death Note. So one theory could be is that Light Yagami was the only successful user of the Death Note, hence why Kira is worshipped even after death due to its impact and message it sent out to the world. So to sum up the whole manga chapter, it overall gives us a few hints of what may be happening after Light's death, but it also opens up the opportunity to a sequel. Like, we never know. Even Code Geass, which is something that has never been relevant, after 10 years or after what happened to Lelouch and its ending, anything seems to be possible when there is enough demand or ideas flowing around in the anime industry. So one day, in 10 years, we might see a definite sequel. Anyways guys, be sure to let me know your opinion as always in the comment section below. Follow us on social media like Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time.
It was a warm summer's day in my office. I couldn't do the right accent, and the latest case had my head spinning. Here. I took a potato chip and ate it. It was clear I'd have to call in help for this one, but there just weren't many options. L. Smart guy, but I'd never seen his face. Couldn't trust him. The ultimate detective. Still in high school. Couldn't bear to put the dame in harm's way. The Batman. This guy literally might be insane. But there was one last resort. Yeah. Hello, I'm Tyler, this is the Imaginary Axis, and guys, Death Note might be my favorite manga and anime of all time. To this day, it is the best depiction of a battle of wits that I've ever seen. A fantastic story about clashing ideologies and indomitable wills filled with so many clever twists and turns that, seriously, if you haven't seen or read it yet, pause the video and go do that now! The series follows Light Yagami, a high school senior at the top of his class who comes across a notebook that belongs to a god of death, or Shinigami. He quickly discovers that writing somebody's name in the notebook while visualizing their face will cause them to die. By heart attack to be exact, unless the method of death is specified in the notebook itself. Anyway, over the course of just a couple days, this newfound power transforms Light from an average high school student into the self-proclaimed god of the new world. A force that strikes down criminals and evildoers at every turn in an attempt to purge the world of filth and teach humanity that sins do not go unpunished. There will be justice, and his name is Kira. Of course, this eventually attracts the attention of law enforcement, world governments, and one brilliant detective in particular who manages to deduce the rules to Kira's game and actually poses a threat to his reign. So the battle begins to determine whose job it really is to dictate right and wrong. There's a lot I could get into with this series, from its commentary on modern-day society and philosophy to its exploration of nihilism and its deconstruction of commonly accepted tropes. But one of the things that really caught my interest with the recent release of the American adaptation was the setting of the original Death Note story. Don't worry, this isn't going to be yet another video complaining about how L is black and Light's last name is Turner. I'm talking about the time period. You see, the original Death Note was set in 2003. The conflict between Kira and his adversaries carrying on for 7 years into 2010. Conversely, this new adaptation is set in what appears to be present-day America, a nearly 14-year difference. So what's the big deal, I can hear you all asking? Well, in this 14-year interim, I think we mere humans might have grown beyond the Death Note. At least as it's used in the anime. I know, hard to believe, right? An artifact created by the gods? But keep an open mind here and let me see if I can convince you. By the way, what I'm about to go over involves a lot of day counting and critical Death Note events, which the manga and anime sometimes conflict on. So just for the record, the manga's timeline takes precedence since it's the source material. The anime will only be used to provide supplementary, non-contradictory details. Let's begin. Our story opens up on November 28th, 2017, and the events kick off almost identically to the original telling. I'm not going to do something cheap like suggest a video camera would catch Light picking up the notebook. Let's just say the first day and a half play out exactly how they would have in 2003. The real change starts here, the moment Light decides to start killing off society's criminals. In the original story, it took 6 days for Kira's actions to warrant an international police meeting and grab the attention of L. But in this modern-day adaptation, I kid you not, it would be 1 day before Light accidentally got the attention of an even more dangerous opponent. Want to know who that opponent is? A detective even more brilliant than this guy? Well, hold on to your seats, everybody, because it's you. I'm talking about the internet. Yes, it existed in 2003, but it was a baby back then. Today, it's a behemoth, and it would act as the world's first line of defense against a Kira attack. I'm not joking, this is a hurdle Light has to master if he wants world domination. The internet used to be a place for select businesses and nerds. That was it. Back in 2003, roughly 11% of the world used the internet. Today, over 51% of the world uses the internet, and it's basically necessary for functioning in modern society. If you were posting something online in Death Note's original timeline, you might have been using a WordPress blog or a MySpace page, but most likely you were on a random PHPBB forum. There was no organization, no coordination, and most things were impossible to find. Also, your email was probably provided by your ISP or work. None of this stuff. Today, information moves fast. Opinions are shared everywhere, and they're easy to find. Communication is simpler and more widespread than ever before. And that would be a problem for Light. Imagine 1,000 theories about Kira's identity being circulated around the world the moment people started noticing a trend. You might be inclined to think this would make it even harder to find Light, like a worldwide detective version of Twitch Plays Pokemon. But no. Studies have shown time and time again that when properly organized, large quantities of people excel at analyzing a problem, tossing out the poor solutions, and working their way toward the answer. And when you combine the notoriety of the Kira case, the availability of information to the public, the speed at which that information can now travel, and the massive quantity of organized online communities, Pepe may ruin Light's plans before even L can. Need proof? How about these guys? A Syrian rebel training video from YouTube was posted to 4chan on May 30th, 2016. And the internet was so outraged at this that they used the video to find other videos of the same camp, took note of 5 circuit suspension towers in the background, and were able to use the various angles of those towers to triangulate the exact latitude and longitude of the camp on Google Maps. They tweeted it out to a journalist with ties to Russia and had the location bombed. Less than a month later, they did the same thing to ISIS. Those were 2 secret training camps that multiple government agencies were looking for, casually tracked down by a group of random people online. There was also this time when the internet managed to track down the exact Burger King this picture was taken at and the employee that was stepping in the food. These times when the internet tracked down the addresses for 2 animal abusers and had them charged. And this time, when the internet very well may have uncovered the identity of a masked criminal who attacked this poor guy with a bike lock. Disclaimer, the suspect 4chan pointed out has not yet been properly tried.
Who is this 4chan?
The internet is actually so much better at solving problems than a single person that in order to speed up research on protein folding, the University of Washington released an online video game that reimagined modern biological research as a puzzle. Thousands of players working together managed to outperform the best current research software 8 out of 10 times. They then redesigned a synthetic enzyme developed by real scientists to make it 18 times more efficient and deciphered the crystal structure of a virus that had been unsolved for 15 years in only 10 days. Should light be scared? Yeah, I think so. Like L, the only thing stopping the internet from solving most crimes is a general lack of interest or a lack of public information. Neither of those things are factors in the Kira case. Light's killings are purposefully designed to get people's attention and to get them talking. The information will always be public, and the internet will start discussing it from day one. In fact, if events play out like they did in the original story, in under a week, there's already a clear path, narrowing in on Light. The only difficult part is picking out the clues and putting them together. Something that would either take a very dedicated genius or thousands of people digging up information around the clock and sharing it with each other and the police instantly. Does that sound like too much of a stretch to you? Where's the proof that the internet could scour all these tiny details even faster than L could? Shia LaBeouf. Do it! You may not know this, but Shia LaBeouf has been quite the political activist recently. He's set up a few live streams protesting Donald Trump, only for trolls from the internet to find his location every time and ruin the project. In early March, he eventually got tired of all the interruptions and turned the stream into this. Just a simple flag, blowing in the wind, at an unknown location, 24/7. Sounds foolproof, right? Wrong. Because the internet communities dedicated to trolling Shia literally tracked this thing down in a day by mapping the stars in the background, timing the sunrise, listening to animal noises in the area, and triangulating the exact location based on flight patterns observed by occasional airplanes in the sky. They sent a user out to the region they had narrowed it down to, and... in a day! And the worst part... in a day! And the worst part about this detective is that the internet is filled with people who will gladly mug Light and probably even steal his stuff as evidence the moment they start suspecting he's Kira. None of that fair law and order stuff L sticks by. If 4chan thinks they can overthrow a god by ambushing a 17-year-old honors student, they'll do it. They wrote up detailed schematics about scaling a public museum in England to steal Shia LaBeouf's flag again after he made a new one. Okay, but Light would see them coming, right? I mean, he's a smart guy. Maybe if Death Note happened in modern day, he wouldn't leave as many clues, or he'd even read the internet forums trying to track him down. Well, maybe. But remember how L was able to deduce that Kira needed a name and face to kill by day 7 at maximum? The internet would probably deduce this quicker, and the moment that happens, open discussion will probably die down among any group seriously tracking him. That's one of the beauties of the internet. These kinds of discussions can start by openly taking place everywhere, and then slowly move to silently taking place everywhere. When 4chan was trying to steal Shia LaBeouf's second flag from a museum rooftop, Shia actually logged on to 4chan to eavesdrop on any plans they might have. A tactic we can probably bet Light would use too. But they were expecting this. So they retreated into private Discord servers to discuss their real plans while posting fake leads on the open net that Shia was reading. Once these conversations are closed off, that's it. From Light's perspective, it'll look like Elle and the police department are just way better than he was expecting, when in actuality, they have an army of citizens feeding them information about Kira. With these numbers and the events of the story, I estimate that within 1 week, segmented internet communities will know that Kira is an intelligent Japanese high school student with ties to the police force investigating him who can kill you as long as he knows your name and face. This is terrible for Light. As the police chief's son, he'll appear at the top of their suspect list, just like he did in the original story. In the manga, it took him 2 weeks before he built a false bottom drawer to hide his death note in. Before that, he carried it around with him. Misa managed to find Light's address and personal information online with nothing but his name, so how long do you think it'll take the internet to track Light down, jump him, and find out he has a notebook with every victim's name in it? Just for the record, it took them 1 day to send people out to illegally scale a public building in Liverpool, England. Modern technology is amazing. It can bring normal people together to do some really incredible things. But it's also terrifying. Because this is not the greatest threat to Kira's reign.